Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, has been moved from custody in Abuja to a correctional facility in Sokoto. Welcome to Africa Watch 360, calm, clear, and focused news you can trust.
So what's happening here? Well, a whole lot, and it all happened incredibly fast. A series of rapid-fire developments has thrown the long-running case of Nnamdi Kanu right back into the national spotlight. We're talking a life sentence from a federal high court and, just 24 hours later, a really controversial transfer. So today, we're going to break it all down. We'll look at exactly what happened, analyze the whole spectrum of reactions this has kicked off, and explore what it all might mean for the stability of Nigeria's southeast region.
All right, first up, let's talk about the most immediate event, this transfer. Right after his conviction, Nnamdi Kanu was moved from the Department of State Services, or DSS, facility in the capital, Abuja, to a new location way out in the country's northwest.
Okay, so let's get the basic facts straight, because they set the stage for everything else. According to reports, on November 21, 2025, Kanu was moved from that DSS facility in Abuja all the way to the correctional center in Sokoto. And this isn't a short trip. We're talking a massive relocation, over 600 kilometers. Now, the news first broke when his special counsel, Aloy Ejimakor, posted about it on X, and just like that, it set off this huge wave of concern and speculation.
So you might be asking, why the move, and why so far away? Well, the court gave a very specific reason. Justice James Omotosho ordered Kanu be taken to what he called a protective prison. The official line was that the Kuje prison in Abuja just wasn't secure enough, pointing to past prison breaks. But on the other hand, and this is a big but, the legal team immediately flagged some serious problems. His lawyer pointed out the obvious practical reality. Moving his client hundreds of kilometers away makes it incredibly difficult for his lawyers, his family, and his doctors to reach him. So you've got this classic push and pull, right? The state's rationale on security versus the defense's concerns about access to justice.
Now here's the thing. This transfer didn't just come out of nowhere. It was a direct result of a landmark court ruling that had dropped just the day before. So to really get a grip on the transfer, we have to rewind 24 hours and look at the verdict that set this all in motion.
And man, this has been a long and winding road. It all kicked off way back in 2015 with his first arrest. He was granted bail, then left Nigeria in 2017. That was the same year his organization, IPOB, the Indigenous People of Biafra, a group that advocates for an independent nation in Nigeria's southeast, was banned by the government. Fast forward to 2021, he was rearrested in Kenya, brought back to Nigeria, and the trial continued. This whole decade-long saga finally came to a head on November 20, 2025, when the court found him guilty on terrorism charges and handed down a life sentence.
Right after the verdict, Kanu's lawyer, Aloy Ejimakor, made this statement, and it really just cuts right to the absolute core of this whole debate. What he's doing is framing the conviction not around any physical action, but purely around words and broadcasts. It puts a huge spotlight on a massive, massive question. Where do you draw the line between advocating for a cause and committing terrorism? Can speech alone land you in prison for life on these kinds of charges? So of course, the defense team is not taking this lying down. They came out swinging, immediately announcing they would appeal, calling the verdict a travesty of justice. Their argument is built on a few key points. First, they're saying, show us the proof. They claim the prosecution never actually connected Kanu's broadcasts to any specific act of violence. Second, they're arguing that simply advocating for self-determination is a political stance and it's not, by itself, a crime. And they've made it clear they are ready to take this fight all the way to the Supreme Court if they have to.
Yeah, as you'd expect, this double whammy of a life sentence and a sudden transfer just lit a fire. The reactions came pouring in from family, activists, government officials, and major cultural groups. So let's get into those reactions because they are all over the map.
Let's start with the family. Their response was just pure alarm. Nnamdi Kanu's brother, Prince Emmanuel Kanu, alleged that this move to Sokoto is actually a plot. He believes this isn't about security, it's about cutting his brother off from his doctors and medication. He voiced serious fears that this is a way to endanger his brother's life and called on the international community to pay close attention.
Then you've got activists like Omuyeli Sowore, who are looking at this through a more political lens. He claims the transfer was a strategic calculation to stop Kanu from becoming a rallying point. He alleged that officials were worried that if Kanu was kept in the nearby Kuje prison, it would essentially become a place of pilgrimage for his supporters. So in this view, the move is designed to isolate him, basically out of sight, out of mind, or at least out of reach.
Now, from inside the government, we heard a very different tone. The Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu, issued a call for calm. She admitted the outcome was not what people expected and urged everyone, especially in the southeast, to show restraint and avoid making a tense situation even worse. It's an interesting statement because it's an admission, really, that they know this is a tinderbox situation.
And then there's Ohanes Nigbo, which is a hugely influential Igbo socio-cultural organization. They did not mince words at all. They called the judgment a blow to justice and warned that it could further destabilize the Southeast. They're basically saying this isn't going to solve the problem, it's going to make it worse, arguing that his continued detention is a source of radicalization, not a solution to it.
So we've heard from family, from activists, from cultural leaders, but sometimes the loudest sound in a room is silence. And that's exactly what we're getting from another very important group of people, the region's own political leaders.
So what have the governors of the 5 Southeast states had to say about all this? The short answer is absolutely nothing. Crickets. In the crucial hours and days after the verdict and transfer, there have been no official statements, no press conferences, just silence. And this is on an issue with massive implications for the millions of people they govern.
Now, if you've been following this for a while, this might not be a total shock. Observers say this is kind of their MO, a pattern of being super cautious with the whole IPOB issue. But, and this is a big but, critics are quick to bring up the past. They point to 2017, when the Southeast Governors Forum played a key role in getting IPOB prescribed in the first place, which opened the door for the federal government to label it a terrorist group. So for a lot of people, this silence doesn't look like caution. It looks like they're washing their hands of a problem they helped create.
All right, let's pull all these threads together now. The verdict, the transfer, all the different reactions, and that deafening silence from the governors. What does it all add up to? Why does this matter beyond just one man's case?
Okay, a quick recap to make sure we're all on the same page. Kanu gets life in prison for terrorism. He's then moved over 600 kilometers away to Sokoto. His lawyers are appealing, calling the whole thing a sham. Family, activists, and cultural groups are furious. And the local governors? Silent. That's the chessboard right now, and it's an incredibly tense one.
And this gets us to the million-dollar question, right? When a group like Ohanese warns about destabilization, what does that actually look like on the ground? Well, it could mean an already difficult security situation gets even worse. It could hit the economy, spark more protests, and just deepen that feeling for many people that they're not being heard. This isn't just about Nnamdi Kanu anymore. It's sending a signal across an entire region.
As things stand, it really feels like we're at a fork in the road. There seem to be 2 very different ways this could go. Path number 1 is the purely legal one. This means the appeal process works its way through the courts, which could take years. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Path number 2 is totally different. It's the political route. You have groups like Onaze calling for the president to step in and find a political solution, basically saying this issue is now bigger than a courtroom and needs executive action to keep the peace.
And this really gets to the heart of a huge dilemma, doesn't it? In these super sensitive, highly politicized cases that touch on everything from national security to ethnic identity, where do you draw the line? Should it always be about the letter of the law, no matter how long it takes? Or is there a point where a political solution is necessary for the sake of peace and stability? I'm genuinely curious what you think. What's your honest take on the balance between these 2 approaches in cases like this one? This story is still evolving, and the next update could honestly change everything. We'll keep following this story. Stay subscribed for clearer, deeper analysis from Africa Watch 360.